Yep. Take care. I'm gonna sign off. I gotta get back to work.
All right, see ya. Our next
See ya.
up, we have the professor of skateboarding, Paul Schmitt.
Hi, guys.
So nice to have you here, and I love that you're in your lab coat in your lab. This is
Why
amazing.
not, right? No better place to be.
The last time I got to see you was 2018, and we were eating popcorn together watching Tony Alva's movie.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
That was crazy, right?
Yep.
That was a really cool event. Pretty emotional to be there and see it happening and have him there and be excited about it. It's just really neat.
Yeah, it was really cool.
It feels like
So we are
experience some historical things in skateboarding, and every once in a while you're in the right place at the right time. And it seems like you've done a lot of that. In skateboarding.
Yeah, I've seen a thing or two go down over the years, that's for sure.
Joe tells me this story
Okay.
about you in China being bloodied at the opening of the.
I'll
tell
tell
him.
this story.
Tell him. All right. I'll turn it over to Joe. It's all you, Joe.
So Woodward opened up a park in Beijing. This was what, 2010
Something like that.
ish, right around there, and the entire a bunch of skateboarding world people showed up, including the world's most famous skateboarder Tony Hawk. And it was, of course, an absolute free-for-all in the Woodward facility. And there's all these really good skaters ripping around, including you. And you were going out of you were going up, and you were doing a bowl transfer on a subvert wall, I remember. And you caught a wheel coming in and just smacked right in the bottom of the thing and split your head open with your helmet on, of course, right? Like that. And what happens, but Tony Hawk sees you, he runs over, rips off his shirt, wraps it around your head, and puts you in an, I think you ended up at the hospital after that. I mean,
say, get out of the bowl, we're trying to skate.
Oh, is that what and then other people were like, I'm not using my shirt to wipe off that blood. No way. Yeah, that was epic. I mean, in what other sport do you have the people just going out and doing the sport for fun? And that's what was happening there. These were some of the highest paid athletes in the sport, and they were just like kids in a candy store, just having so much fun riding a new facility.
That was a great trip for sure.
It was epic. And then you and I spent the time on the train going from Beijing to Shanghai, and you had that big wound on your head.
Yeah.
Man, it is. It's an historic opportunity that we had, and we're still having. History is made every day, really. So you and I talked a lot in preparation for this, and we realized that it would be really easy for us to fill up 12 hours of time with all of really interesting
I could
stuff
just
we have
keep
to talk
on
about.
talking. I mean, I could have commented on everybody's subjects. There was all kinds of great content there. People doing great stuff around the world. Basically, skateboard enthusiasts being enthusiasts, right? And if you're enthusiast enough and long enough, you become really good at it and aware. And that's sort of where I'm at, you know?
Yeah, you are. And so what we did is we ended up saying, like, look, we need a catchy title. This is an education summit. We are doing skateboard education. So you came up with this great title that's really provocative. I wanted to say it was going to be size matters, but no, you said that was a little bit too provocative. So we went with math matters.
Yeah, and I actually turned it in. If you check my Instagram this morning, I turned it into hashtag skate math matters because there's already like 5.1 million posts of math matters. So I swear it means nothing out there. So I went and tagged a bunch of little posts that I've had with information. So if you check skate math matters on Instagram, you can find some stuff and read some things about some of the stuff we'll talk about.
Got it. All right. So what does skate math matters mean?
Well, it matters all the way around. You know, they can't build skate parks without math, right? You know, I can't build skateboards without math. The craziest thing about skateboarding, it's all about perception. And if you perceive something as right, it's right until proven otherwise, right? You know, and even proven otherwise, you're like, I don't believe that. You know, you can still be stuck on perception, you know, and math is the ultimate way to make things understood and match them up. But when it comes down to style and flair and a combination of personality, it doesn't always fit, you know, but what it does do is it frames it, you know, and the math will frame what's going to happen. you know? And that's one of the biggest things here in skateboarding is in general, our market's the perception of this rider, this board, this product's cool, right? And then little kids want to grow up really fast and become big kids. So in general, they're not riding the right product. You know, they're riding the wrong product because their board's too big for them. Now, it's totally different when you're learning how to skateboard and you're sort of like in that magic carpet mode. You're just like trying to get your balance and it's not trick time, right? In that case, bigger wheelbase is better. And maybe even a drop down board closer to the ground is better, right? But when it comes down to doing tricks and trying to Ollie, which they all want to do right away, which we heard over and over already today, right? Like, you know, can't stop kids from wanting to Ollie. Then the right side board really matters because basically you can't do a proper Ollie without the counteracting lever. So lots of talk about the lever and the tail, right? But the way we got an Ollie to get out of the 80s Ollies were like this, right? The way we got an Ollie to get leveled out in the 90s is we put a kicktail on the nose, right? And now there's another lever, you know? So when that lever is too far away and you can't reach it, then what are you going to do with it? Not much, right? It's too far away. Something was said earlier just about sort of center of body mass, right? And in general, the center of your body mass is dictated by your height. I did some studies years ago at skate camp with kids. I took like 100 kids, and this is the late 90s, and measured their weight, their height, and their shoe size. And it really came down to height is what really set them, because I see big kids with small feet with big, you know, foot size doesn't matter to height necessarily, you know, and weight's its own issue, right? But in general, your height sort of sets where your legs are coming down from your torso down, right? The longer they are, the further apart they are, you know? So the bigger the wheelbase, you know? So most older skaters ride a wheelbase that's too short because that's what they've been told. And most young skaters ride a wheelbase that's too long because that's what they've been sold.
So what is the Goldilocks formula for coming up with the right size skateboard?
Well, I have what I call my Createaskate height chart, and it's something I developed then back in the late 90s and then use it with my Createaskate program, where it sort of starts at 12-inch wheelbase. Because what I really find is a kid that's under 4 feet tall, which is where 12-inch wheelbase is, if I make it even smaller and smaller, he's going to outgrow it so fast, and he's just not in that trick mode yet. You know, so I sort of have sizes 12-inch, 12 and a half, 13, 13 and a half, 14-inch wheelbase, you know, 14 and a quarter is market average right now.
Oh, you just brought up wheelbase. And so wheelbase skateboarders, when we typically measure it from bolt hole to bolt hole. Is that what you mean by wheelbase?
Yeah, so that's the wheelbase is bolt hole to bolt hole. However, when you mix it with a different truck, why do indies turn tighter? Oh, because the axle to axle distance is closer together than a Thunder. Doesn't mean the geometry of the truck isn't better and doesn't turn better, but it's already leaned that direction, right? You know, so I look at everything as sort of like a meter. You know, if your current setup is right now and it's like a meter, it's straight up. And if we make the wheels smaller and the tail hits sooner, you're going to get some benefit over here, but you're going to lose something over here, right? And if we say, hey, we're going to put riser pads on it, it's going to take longer for your wheels to hit, well, you're going to be able to Ollie higher, you know, or put bigger wheels on your board, you'll Ollie higher, because you get a better windup, which comes back to that whole fulcrum of leverage.
So where does that stop? I mean, if I put 4-inch wheels on my board and 2-inch high riser pads, I should be able to Ollie over a basketball.
But you just got to realize that it's skill no matter what. No matter what the board is, the board's not going anywhere without somebody, you know, applying the right movements to make an Ollie happen. I got a bunch of old boards on the shelves here from the 80s up on top, and literally they're all boards that have like 65 millimeter wheels, 1/2-inch riser pads, you know, because that's where skateboards were in the 80s, right? You know, you put the tail on the ground, it's like rocket, super high in the air, you know, and that was the tide in skateboarding at that time. I would say it happened without even knowing it, right? You know, it's easy to look at it now and identify it.
You just mentioned the nose tail.
Okay,
how did that come about?
Well, for me, I started to make longer noses on my Schmitt sticks boards and make them the same angle as a tail, so 15 degrees. But for me, it wasn't about the Ollie. For me personally, it was about a fakie hang up on a vert ramp and needing that lever, not knowing what that lever was going to do for everybody. Now I was influenced by many people, right? Like my whole life, I've been around skaters that have influenced me by what they say, what they do. And I just sort of pick up on it, right? And I feel pretty lucky that I've been in the opportunity to pick up on a few things over the years.
So once again, you have an invention, just like Micah was saying. He builds a skate park and somebody comes up with a new line, and you built a nose on the front of the board, or a tail on the front of the board, and you did it for vert ramps, and Ollie, people doing Ollies figured out it worked better.
Yeah, well, there were already double kicktails in the 70s with the Bonsai aluminum board that had a.
That's right. I had one of those.
That had a nose on it, right? So it had already happened. Yeah. But the big difference that I did was we're now in the laminated plywood era is I put the hips in the wood so I could get the organic reaction to the wood to give me what I wanted out of it.
The hips, you mean the concave?
Right, with the concave, where the hips are, okay? Because that allowed the wood to, you can't just mold the wood wherever you want. It will crack and splinter all over the place. You know, you're taking 7 layers of wood with wood and glue and pressing them together. It has to be an obtainable shape. Right. You know, because you've got all those nanotubes in there and you're pressing them and pre-tensioning them in the right place, you know. And then in the late 90s, when we got to having the boards be thinner and thinner crossbands, we really got the board to have a springy give back, you know. When in the 80s, there was the least concave was right in front of the back truck, and that was the jump ramp era where all the boards broke. And they broke because of the design. The place of the highest stress was the weakest place.
So the concave, the hips, the shoulder, what do you call it? The hips?
The hips.
That adds strength, right?
Yeah. Yep. It's just like a piece of paper flat has, you know, it's all flipsy, but if you cup it up, it's a lot stiffer, right? Well, it's the same thing with wood. Same thing of any raw material.
So skate math matters. So how did you come up with a formula for the perfect or the appropriate size for somebody's height? Or was it height or shoe size or what? It's
really just height. So I have what's called a Createaskate height chart. If you check on Instagram, #Createaskate height chart, you'll find lots of examples and lots of discussions with people over time. A lot of pro skaters, as guys get good, everybody drives them to ride a bigger board. Oh, grow up, kid, you know, and the kid wants to be a big kid, right? Well, there's one skater when he was 8, other skaters would come to their skate park and they give them free boards and stuff. And we're talking, you know, guys on the cover, guys with interviews in the magazine, and here, kid, here's free stuff. And his dad's like, he always skates horrible on that stuff. The kid wasn't 4 foot tall yet, right? And his dad sort of took the attitude that, well, I'm going to believe in you, not with them, because it's obvious the board's working for him. And then I just guided the size of his board through life as he grew up, and he went 12-inch wheelbase, 12.5, 13, 13.5. At 13.5-inch wheelbase, he once said, hey, I wish my board was a little wider. Made it wider for him. Didn't hear anything else, you know. He rides 14.25 now. His name's Nija. So he spent his energy progressing his skills on his skateboard, not spending his energy counteracting the wrong skateboard.
So as educators, that you just said 2 things I think that speak really, really deeply to us. And one of them is, once somebody starts to ride, they need a board that fits their height, no matter how old they are. And number 2, I think is really insightful, and that is using a drop-down board that's super stable for the first time somebody's pushing. Have you ever tried that?
Yeah, I've done it. I mean, it's being injured recently, you know, in the last couple of years, I can barely do a regular push. I can push around on a drop-down board. My knee can handle it, but my regular board, I can't handle that 2.5-inch step down. I can handle the 1.25 from the drop-down.
There's more math in there, isn't there, all those inches?
Yeah, well, it ends up being, it's just that one place of movement in my knee that's so horrible. It's good everywhere else.
Right.
You know, I'm missing cartilage. It has something to do with it, you know. Doctor tells me there's a couple millimeters missing.
Well, fortunately, the $6 million man era is with us.
Well, that perception thing of millimeters and inches and, you know, what's right and what's wrong. And the hardest reality is brands sell things according to marketing, right? And quite often I'll find where people measure a skateboard, they'll measure it across in the air, across from tip to tip, because some guy in a CNC program at a factory measured it that way, right? Well, if you cut the grip tape to that 32 inches and then you put it on, it's going to be half inch shy on one end, because really the surface of the board is 32 and a half, you know? And then, you know, when you get down to truck sizes, you know, that's confusing. Some brands use inches, some use metric, some use axle width, some use hanger width, you know. Then you take a narrow wheel versus a wide wheel. People figure out what they like. They don't know why. And usually when I sit down and identify it with them, they'll understand that. You know, like for instance, do you like to see your wheels hang out the side of your board? Or do you not like to see it?
I like them to be, I have to lean over to see them, but I have to be able to see them.
You have to lean over a little bit. So that board's going to flip easier. If you can see the wheels, it's going to flip harder. But then when it flips, it's going to go faster. Okay.
I do that because when I'm pushing, every now and then I'll catch my wheel on my foot.
Yeah, I've done that.
If it sticks out too far, and that could be devastating at my age.
So there's something for kids to learn, is not see their wheels. Their board will flip easier. It's going to flip softer and slower, just like a bigger radius wheel will flip slower than a hard radius wheel. But the hard radius wheel, when you have the control, you'll get that really snappy flip, right? Now, this is all from analyzation. This isn't my ability. I'm going to go ride the pump track.
So one thing that you cover in your Createaskate program is the length of the tail and the size of the wheels and how it affects the Ollie. So if somebody wants to do a setup to do the highest Ollie, what would they consider? What kind of math would there be there?
Well, there's a good example. If you check YouTube, there's like a Professor Schmitt Ollie higher with Spencer Newsy, and I basically put riser pads on his board and got him to Ollie another 6 inches, you know. So it's really about where you're from, your current setup, right? Because the ideal setup may have nothing to do with where you're at. It's about taking where you're at and leaning it one way or the other, right? You know, so my biggest comment for anybody is, hey, you want to Ollie higher, put some riser pads on your board, or put some bigger diameter wheels on your board, take longer for the tail to hit, have more angle, you'll get higher up. Now you may also have less control, you know, and that's
shorter tail would give you less control, would give you a higher, more rocket, but less control, right?
Exactly. I mean, I have this little tool. So here, this is if you're a woodworker, here's a digital gauge for checking the angle on a table saw blade, and you sort of turn it, right? Well, I got one that I put a couple magnets on, and I put it on a skateboard and on a flat surface, and then I tilt it and I find out how tall the board is, you know? And that's the combination of the truck, the wheel, and the board, and risers if they exist. The people I work with pretty much don't ride risers. But the reality is that it's a combination of all. And again, people figure out what they like. They just don't really know why they like it. But they're into it. This is where they're at now, you know? And people don't want drastic change. They want just enough change to get something. Then if you make the board Ollie higher, it's not going to be as good for manual pads, you know, but hey, you might want a different board for Manny Day with some smaller wheels on it anyways. Who knows, you know?
Yeah, quivers. Skaters used to have quivers.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yep. Yeah. Wally can talk to you about quivers. He's the generation of quivers. Yeah.
I don't know if I don't think anyone else can see Wally, but I can see Wally right
I know
now.
Wally's coming up. Yeah.
Hey, Wally.
How are you guys?
Well.
Oh, good.
So, Createaskate. We've got 100 educators sitting here right now. We're always looking for stuff to use in our classes. How does Createaskate fit into what?
So Createaskate's a program. I originally developed it for schools, right? So it's got a whole 40-page educational curriculum. You know, in the world now, you see a lot of focus on STEM and STEAM programming for schools, right? So it's a very STEM, STEAM-based program. There's a non-power tools version that fits anywhere: art, math, science, on a park bench in a city park next to skate camp. Who knows? And then there's a power tools version for wood shop or industrial arts classes. So I've run these programs at Woodward skate camps for years, and some skate camps do it. Sometimes it'll be Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, anywhere students learn. So I think if they're at your camp, they're probably learning. One of the biggest challenges is that I only really sell it in North America because a UPS truck can deliver it cheap. And the minute I put it on an airplane, or I got to convert the language or the curriculum to metric or Spanish or something, I don't have the skill set for that. I'm going to make more skateboards instead at my factory.
Right on. So if we want to add something to our curriculum that will really make the parents happy and get the kids excited about learning some science and math, and Createaskate is an option for us.
Yeah, totally. It's never taken as serious next to a skate park as it is a classroom. You know, that's just the hard reality of it. You got the distraction of a skate park, right? But no matter what, kids learn something out of it. You know, if they learn to just make something with their hands, that's a lot just in itself, right? And the modern world, making something involves a keyboard, a joystick, or a mouse, right?
Well, I wanted to share with you, Paul, my oldest son, he's 15 now. We made Createaskates at Woodward in copper together when he was 5. And
Okay.
he still has those boards, and they're up in his room, and he won't get rid of them. He loves them. And it's so funny because, you know, like we painted them up. It was the very basic setup that they did there, where we just basically designed it. But it was, for him, it's one of his favorite memories from his young childhood. And I hope he keeps that thing with him forever. So it's pretty crazy, the first skateboard experience and the stories I get back from it. So Createaskate's been going since around 2013, and over 50,000 kids have been through it. So I get the stories all the time, you know. It's a special thing. I think anybody who hasn't experienced it, I got to work with Woodward. I got to work with Woodward Tahoe and Woodward Copper a little bit. And we did Createaskate there. And I got to tell you, it's so much fun just getting in there and working with the kids and letting them go nuts and paint their board and do what they want to do. And the full process that you go through is pretty amazing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Paul, in your program, do you actually teach them how to press the board and do those things?
I only teach them how to press a board in a miniature example, because the reality is the infrastructure necessary to press a full skateboard isn't going to happen in a school.
Right.
But with a speed clamp and a paint roller, you can do this miniature mold example and get the idea of lamination. So my whole thing is more about opening up the principles of ideas.
Right.
And some people are like, well, I want to laminate myself. And it's like, well, you could mess up hundreds trying to get to that place, believe me, you know. But if you want to do it and it's your goal, then please do, you know.
Absolutely.
Sometimes they get mad at me like, well, I'm not supporting that. Well, that's not what I'm working on, you know. But I am very much about the DIY maker community, because the reality is that skateboards need to be made by skaters, right?
Yeah.
I mean, knowing all the other places skateboards are made, there aren't many of them I can go skate with the people to make the boards, right? I'm not going to see them at the skate park. They don't skate.
Right.
Yeah. So have you got any questions on there?
You've got some fans out there, man. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know a thing or two, I guess, huh?
You might know a few people too.
Yeah, that I do.
It's not all your alter egos. You're not doing this yourself, are you?
So if you're scared by millimeters, imagine so hard it is. Yeah, I'm riding some 1 7/8 diameter wheels, and they're 1 3/8 wide. A little hard to understand, right? Way easier to have millimeters for wheel sizes. So there's a place for this mixed up environment for sure. But in the 70s, they told us we were going metric and it was just going to be that way. So someone making a wheel was like, oh, this makes more sense. And they just followed it.
I think the 60 millimeter wheels are faster too. Maybe that's what scares them.
Maybe. Depends where you're at, right?
Right. True.
Hey, is Wally on yet?
Wally's on. Yeah.
Because you guys are of an era. Actually, Wally is our grandfather era. Even
he's even older
Paul
than me.
Looks more like the grandfather. So,
however, he's not as gray as I am. What's up?
Exactly. Well, we were just talking about the diameter of wheels, and when I I'll just tell everybody, Wally invented the wall ride. Okay, that's where he got his name. And I always thought, wow, that's really cool. You know, wall ride, skateboard, sticky urethane wheels on a wall. No, he invented it on clay wheels.
Yeah.
So it's hard enough to ride composition wheels on a skateboard, but you want to talk about going up the side of a building with it. And so in Math Matters, Wally, do you remember how you measured the size of clay wheels? Inches, miles, pounds?
No, we never measured them. I don't know.
They weren't even discussed. It was it was an unknown thing at that time.
Yeah. Probably the only thing we measured back then is the width of the skateboard itself and the length. But you know, trucks and wheels were just a given one size, I believe.
You're talking skateboards like this?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of a bigger one, wasn't it?
I don't know. It's about the same, I guess.
I guess it's 24, 26 inches.
I think my boards were 26 by 5 inches wide.
Huh. Wow. So I brought you in early before we'd wrapped up with Paul. Are there any more questions for Paul?
Well, I got a little comment about something Wally just said, the length, right? So everybody wants to know about the length of a skateboard. And to me, the length is a salesman number, because when I joined up with Vision in '85, Dorfman was convinced all skateboards had to be 10 by 30. And that in general was a standard measurement of a skateboard in the first half of the 80s.
Wow.
By the time we got to the end of the 80s, obviously shapes were all over the place and sizes were all over the places and things were changing. But the salesman number of the length. So when I post stuff on Instagram, I'll post the width, the wheelbase, the nose and the tail, and people are like, where's the length? It's like, it's the byproduct of the pieces that are right. Don't be sold the summary. Understand the details of what you're buying. So if you're not aware of it, the distance in between a truck hole is 2 1/10, so 2.1 inches. Some people think it's 2 1/8, but it's 2 1/10.
That's center to center.
Yeah, center to center.
Huh.
Somebody just asked,
So
Paul, what's your favorite size board? Your favorite board?
I ride a board 16-inch wheelbase with a rocker concave and 9 1/4 inches wide. And that's what I've sort of been settled in the last couple of years. I'll go up and down 1/4 inch in width sometimes, depending on the shape of the board. But I don't change my boards very often. It's sometimes like if I'll be on a skate trip for a birthday or something, I'll make a new board. Otherwise, it's like I just spend my time skating when I got time to skate. I got something new to test, but not, it's sort of hard there because everything's so well refined.
Right.
Paul, you're tall. How tall are you?
I'm 6'3".
Oh, you're 6'3". Tony Hawk is 6'2", if I remember right. Because he if I was ever going to do a movie, which I won't, he would definitely be my stuntman. I mean, he could be my stunt double, no problem at all. We're exactly the same height and body weight, but his board is much shorter than 16 inches.
Yeah, he rides 14 3/4 wheelbase. When I was building his boards a couple years ago, and in general, most of the guys that ride his ramp ride 14 3/4 inch wheelbase.
So according to your Createaskate skate chart, he's riding a board that's actually too small.
Right. But he's adapted. Skateboarding is all about adaptation. People adapt. I mean, it's like someone's trying a trick, and how do you get success? You change, you adapt, right? You know? So regardless of however you frame it, somebody can make it happen. Okay. Just how hard is it to get there, or how much work does it take to get there? To be clear, so much of it's about a mental state. If you think you can do it, you can.
Hey, I have one question for you. Have board manufacturing prices changed much over the years? I mean, is it significant?
Yeah, only the retail price of boards hasn't changed. So it's been very hard, to put it mildly.
So the cost of
the cost is going up.
Retail
the cost is going up on everything. Is like crazy.
Wow.
You know, the reality is, in the current world, the cost of everything is going up, and we see board prices starting to creep up, and that's going to happen. You know, there's really no choice about it. But in general, a pro level board's been very stable, $50, $60 price range since the 70s. You know, there's just not much margin left in it anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
None coming through the comments. I mean, Paul, that was very,
It looks like your fan base is big.
honestly, it's so interesting listening to you talk. You know, I watched the video you did on launch angle a while back and increasing your ollie height, and it was just, I love your approach to it. I love how you apply, you know, simple functional science to everything that you do, and it makes a difference. It definitely inspired me to think differently in the way I approach skateboarding. So I appreciate that, and it's been just an honor to have you. Also,
I'm like a very comparative person, right? I try something, I compare how it works, and I adjust. I try how it works and I adjust, just like somebody learning a trick, right?
Absolutely.
I'm not uber smart, high IQ, you know, college degree type person. I'm just apply myself and do it, see the result, apply myself, do it, see the result over and over, right?
You know, it's interesting because I think most skaters cringe at the word coach and probably science, but the truth is they all coach. They coach each other, they coach themselves, and they all execute scientific experiments on themselves as they learn.
Scientific method is in full effect when you're learning a trick and you're changing. If you're going to fail 100 times to learn a trick, you're going to apply a lot to make it, right? Absolutely. And that's really what the scientific method is. Only in the regular world of life or business, you try something and after you fail 2 or 3 times, you give up. It's like, oh, it's not working.
Right, right. Skaters are just that stubborn.
Just keep on going.
Isn't that a sign of insanity? Hey, Paul, somebody has commented earlier. They said is 45 years old, which doesn't affect the size much, but good on you for skating. 6 feet 8 inches tall. And he said, I ride a 17-inch wheelbase popsicle stick, but I can't find anything over 15. Have you got anything available for this person?
I've got some friends I've made some boards for, like mega ramp boards over the years at times. And if you look at the hashtag tall tales, it might be too buried in there nowadays. It's sort of like, as I started the Skate Math Matters hashtag this morning, the first post, right? So it's like, it's just there. It's ripe to go put the stuff up. But like, I used to rule the Maker Monday hashtag, and now it's been overrun by bakers and sewers and knitters and everything. So, who knows?
All right. Tail tap. What was it? Tall tales.
Tall tales. Yeah. Tall tales. But yeah, it's one of those things that Dogtown makes some bigger boards. They're sort of, I think, the better at it. But have they made really big popsicle sticks? I don't think so. You know, it's part of the consumer needs to tell the brand what they want. You know, I think there's part of that is there's a little bit of a disconnect in skateboarding because a brand is an ego, and the ego says, this is us and this is what we want to believe and project, you know?
Well, hey, where can a person go to get a custom board? Let's say they wanted to get a custom design like that. Do you have a recommendation?
Not really. Google around. I mean, there's Skateboard Makers Union. There's a group of guys that are sort of have a Instagram thing, and they're promoting, you know, making skateboards DIY. I would go that approach, you know, trying to convince a big established brand that's selling 14¼ inch popsicle sticks that you need a 16¼ popsicle stick probably is not going to happen.
Right. Right.
You know,
fair enough.
Like, you're going to tell us who we are, you know? That's the reality of it, you know? So I know a lot of times with my Instagram, people go, hey, I want to come in and make a board. And, you know, Ollie's been here and done it, you know, but, you know, not that many people get to come in the door. You know, the reality is I could make custom boards all day long. That's all I would do, but I would be out of business really quick.
Right. Unless you charge surfboard prices, then maybe.
Well, still, what are the 50 people at the factory going to do when I'm just making boards for fun? Right. I got to keep them busy.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, Paul, thanks a lot. It was great having you.
No problem.
Our goal is to help you learn how to skateboard and understand more about skateboarding. If this video helped you, be sure to hit us up in the comments below and tell us what you'd like us to focus on for our next video. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and then subscribe to our channel and tell your friends all about us. If you'd like to learn more about the United States Skateboard Education Association, please visit www.ussea.us, where you can learn more about how to skate, learn more about helping others learn how to skate, and become a certified skateboard coach.